You can't govern your co-op or condo with financial blindfolds on. ACAM Property Management gives you the tools and support needed to track your property's finances. Visit acam.com today to learn more.
Welcome to Problem Solved, a conversation about problems that have been solved in New York co-op and condo buildings. I'm Paula Chin, and my guest today is Don Gelestino, president of Champion Elevator. Welcome, Don.
Hi, Paula. Welcome. Nice to be here with you.
Okay, elevator repairs are an inevitable fact of life at co-ops and condos, requiring boards to spend months planning for them. But problems often crop up that no one could have predicted, which happened recently at some buildings where you thought you were tackling a routine job. Can you tell us about it?
They are definitely common. One of the most recent jobs that I'd like to talk about is a really beautiful high-end building down in Tribeca, 100 Barclay Street. It was a big job, $1.4 million. We encountered a bracket problem with the mounting of the guide rails.
So how many elevators? Were you going in there to do repairs or a modernization? And tell me what unexpected hurdle you jumped into.
This was a 4-passenger elevator group modernization. They were all overhead traction elevators, 2,500-pound capacity each, which is pretty normal, especially in a building that size. So you had 4 34-story elevators all in line, pretty much what you would call a cookie cutter, plain vanilla type job. We were in the job about 4 weeks, and our mechanic was riding the elevator car top on inspection mode, and he noticed that the car had some excessive lateral movement in certain areas of the hoistway, which is very uncommon. He did a little bit of investigation, and he noticed that there was brackets that hold the rails that were moving. And the normal thing would be to do is laser align them, put some shims in and tighten them up. Well, funny part of it is there was no way to tighten these brackets. After further investigation, we found out that next to those 4 elevators, years and years ago, there were 2 more elevators in a different shaft way. And what they did was they actually had put bolts and brackets through the terracotta walls that would hold these brackets to the elevators we were working on. But what they did with the elevators that they removed, they used the shaftway as raceways for HVAC ducts, other wiring and stuff in the building that to go from the basement to the roofs. And they blocked and cut out those intermediate brackets. So the only way for us to do any repairs was to actually chop out the terracotta wall itself, put in tube steel all the way around the hoistway, attach that to natural steel, weld it in, and then adapt the rail brackets and attach them.
How much did that end up costing condo, and what kind of time delay was there?
These are the things that you really could not be prepared for, in my opinion. Thank God it was a Class A building, very high-end luxury apartments. The board did have, obviously, funds to step into a problem like this, but the supports were $491,500, which is tremendous. We had a fixed price job, which was really $1.455 for all 4 cars. So when you look at the amount of excess spend, it's tremendous. It was 34% of the total contract. The job itself was fixed price for 94 days of labor to perform all the work, 47 days per shaft. And it actually ended up taking 120 days. It added 24 weeks to the 56-week schedule. There's never a good time to modernize an elevator in general. Even if you were to mix in and schedule overrun, people get a little bit up in arms. We're glad that we all got through this together, and we did it the best we could, the fastest we could do it. But imagine if the building had to do a refi or didn't have the funds. It could be a big, huge problem.
Well, I understand you ran into a different problem at a job at a Brooklyn condo. and I'm not sure, were they prepared? Tell us what happened there.
This was 2-basement traction, 7-stop apartment building, the very traditional type that you find up and down Ocean Parkway in those areas. And there was a simple line in it, main line disconnect switches by others. My mechanic was going into the main line disconnect, and he noticed that the wires coming into it were very brittle. Now, we didn't have to do anything, but he took the initiative to take some pictures, send it to the supervisor. Super sent it in to the project manager, who then brought it to the board, and they decided to call an electrician. It ended up these 3 wires that came into the machine room for the elevator, it tapped off down the run somewhere in the basement for the compactor, and all of the wires were about 65 to 70 years old, and they were feeding all different parts of this building in the basement. So while the cost of this was about $11,000 per elevator, so $22,000, there was also other interruptions in the building. They had to shut down some compactors. They had to rewire some lighting, egress and exit lighting. It also delayed the job a little bit because they did have to shut down some of the power coming in. So it was a little bit of a challenge. Our job was a $548,000 2-car duplex basement modernization. The board's already feeling the pain of a $550,000 modernization, and then a $22,000 issue arises that doesn't even have anything to do with the elevator. So talk about it being blindsided.
Are these kind of unexpected problems unusual? How often do boards run into them? How often do you run into them?
About 15% of the jobs have complications and cost overruns. I would say there are 20% overruns that don't even have anything to do with complications. Those are sometimes just logistical things that a board or a co-op or condo should be aware of. He says the job's going to be 9 weeks. You're better off figuring for 10. If it comes in at 9, you're good. If it comes in any earlier, it's a mini miracle.
In which case, boards should be prepared for that and have access to more money. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. You should keep something on hand for that rainy day type of an issue that can happen, because they do. You don't want to really scramble at the last minute and try to figure these things out.
Don, that's all great advice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.